of the skill enhancement course. We're now going to look at the skill enhancement course in English, SEC2, creative writing. Take a look at the screen. What is creativity? Now, creativity has a number of definitions. I'm going to stick to just a few of them for your convenience. Creativity is actually a mental process involving the generation of new ideas or concepts or new associations between existing ideas or concepts. Now, the products of creative thought usually have two things: originality and appropriateness. Now, although creativity is now accepted as an essential constituent of human intelligence, efforts to develop a reliable creativity quotient have met with little success. Inspiration refers to the element of creativity that is not completely understood by analytical thought, even though the process of creativity may not be fully understood by the creator, even though inspiration may play a very significant role. So creativity has subversive potential, meaning it can challenge the norms and mores of society, upset status quo, and redistribute power. So creativity may be seen to dwell with pathology only to the extent that it is unconventional, but unlike pathology, creativity is positive in its manifestations. Now, there is a view that formal schooling stifles innate imagination. Well, there is considerable merit in locating creative writing in imagination and naturalness rather than its specializations. Creative writing imposes a rigorous discipline to the practitioner. Creative writing courses may not be able to create a writer, but they can definitely help identify and hone your existing writing skills. So now let's take a look at the art and craft of writing. Well, there are a number of tropes and figures of speech. Tropes meaning devices involving meaning, and figures of speech, I think you may have studied in some part of your honors course, devices involving expression. Now, these are some of the tools that the creative writer uses to make communication more interesting, an idea more remarkable, and in fact transform a piece of writing and empower the writer. So there are a number of figures of speech which you will be learning in your honors courses. So some of them are metaphor, simile, metonymy, allusion, antithesis, paradox, personification, irony, alliteration, and the list goes on. And these are some of the things that are used by writers in their. Now, standard language, depending upon the occasion, language uses formal or informal speech. Standard language refers to a certain standard of correctness, while non-standard language is considered deviant. Slang is often part of the usage of informal speech as colloquialisms. There is jargon, which is a specialized vocabulary growing out of a specific needs of a particular profession. Taboo language, which includes swear words and profanities, which is usually avoided in polite circles. It is also language that is not used outside certain magical or religious contexts. Now, dialects are varieties of the same language spoken by different communities and groups. And these are primarily regional, social, and ethnic dialects. Individual speakers speak idiolects. Pidgin is created when people who share no common language come into contact with one another and they produce their own language. When a pidgin begins to acquire native speakers, you have a Creole language is created. And then there is code switching, borrowing, mixing. All these are common in multilingual societies. Language also reflects racist and sexist attitudes, difference between genders, abnormalities. Sign language is another a full-fledged language, but without sound. Then we have oral and written languages, and these keep changing. Now, words often have a literal meaning or a denotation and a nuanced or suggested meaning. And then you have grammatical differences, and then all these are brought into the area of the art and craft of writing by the writer. Let's now look at the modes of creative writing. While all writing is creative, a difference can be seen in the kind of writing that informs and that which reveals or opens up the inner vistas of the mind and imagination. Now, depending on the context, the form is chosen. The structure emerges from the manner in which the writer arranges the material. In addition to the structure, there are the distinct signature of each writer, meaning their particular style as the handling of language to express the content in the best possible manner. For the aspiring writer, there are some essential preliminaries. What are they? They have to read extensively and with no discrimination. Allow experience to mature. Write something individual and different. Chart out your own course. Keep a diary of thoughts and experiences that you can refer to. Visualize your course of work clearly. Try and achieve maximum clarity, precision, and directness. Be your own best critic and be open to the criticism of others. Now, some of the ways in which one can make one's writing accessible, enjoyable, and readable. How do we do that? Know your subject. First is, to achieve clarity, you must know thoroughly and completely what you're writing about. You have to be interested in your subject. Choose only those subjects that move you, for only if the writer writes with passionate conviction will the reader be moved. Be clear. Don't make your writing so opaque that it is accessible only to an audience of one, that is yourself. Master the language you're using. It is only by manipulating the language skillfully that great and complex thoughts can be communicated effectively. You have to choose your words carefully. When the reader encounters a word that they could not have foreseen, they get interested and pay attention. In short, you have to engage the reader from the beginning to the end. Let the reader feel that he or she is participating in an exciting adventure. Now let's take a look at now we'll take a look at the writing for the media. Now, writing for the media is one of the primary areas under which people talk about creative writing. Now, writing for the media is quite different from writing for the general public. Okay, it follows a certain tenet, some rules, and it is very, very structured. Now, one of the main things that media writing values is brevity. What is brevity? Short words, short sentences, short paragraphs, and short stories. Because media compete for people's time. The more time you take to communicate, the less likely people are going to hear what you have to say. Therefore, in writing for the media, brevity is a very important factor. And you have to strike a balance between expressing all that you feel is essential and yet retaining the interest of the audience. And the other factor to be kept in mind is the subject. What will you write about? The choice of the subject depends on the newsworthiness, which is measured by the number of news values that the subject demonstrates, very similar to the likes that you get in your Facebook posts. To name a few of the news values, impact. First is impact, meaning how many people does the event affect. Second is timeliness. How recently did it occur? Prominence, meaning how well known are the people involved. Proximity, how close geographically did it take place. Conflict, Does it involve some kind of disagreement or fight? Weirdness. How unusual is it? Currency. Meaning, is it related to something people are talking about or interested in? Meaning, to sum up, the three essentials when writing for the media are identifying, structuring, and presenting. What is identifying? Identifying the elements of the story that will be of the greatest interest to the audience. Structuring the story to convey the information as effectively as possible. Presenting the story in a way that will make maximum use of the medium and engage the maximum number of the audience for the maximum length of time. So the factors common to the various forms of media are they are all different ways of communicating news and information to the general public. So newspapers, magazines, television, radio, and even the internet are forms of the media because they communicate to anyone who reads, watches, or hears them. So the media now can be broadly divided into three types based on the method of transmission. The print media, which includes newspapers and magazines, the broadcast media, primarily the radio and the television, and the new media, which is the internet or the World Wide Web. Now, each of these three types of media presents different challenges and opportunities for the writer. We'll first take a look at the print media. Well, the print media includes newspapers and news magazines. The kinds of writing which are prevalent in the print media include basic reportage or hard news, where you're reporting the facts of an incident or an event. Then comes feature writing, where you deal with a particular subject in a wider, deeper detail than in reportage. Interviews, books and film reviews, travel writing, editorials, personal columns. Some modes of creative writing present in this medium are not necessarily governed by the facts of newsworthiness. For example, advertising. So all of these varieties of writing within the print media present different challenges to the writer. But the greatest challenge is to keep it concise, meaning to convey the news effectively. The next challenge will be stylistic in nature, meaning you have to be objective and factual when reporting an incident or an interview, but you can be extremely subjective when it comes to something like a review, an editorial, or a personal column. Now let's take a look at the broadcast media. Again, I've divided into what it includes, writing for broadcast media, challenges. So radio and television present a different set of challenges for the writer. Where radio is concerned, the verbal element is very important. The news item will still be in the written form, but will be read out by the presenter. What differs is the length. The entire report cannot be very long, as it will test the patience of the listener. The important thing is that the report must not seem to be written or read, but appear to be, if you can understand what I mean. The style must not be too loose or too casual. An entertainment show on music would require the host of the program to be comparatively relaxed and somewhat informal. The script would have to be written carefully to convey that feeling. Educational programs, interviews, all these involve a great amount of creativity, like radio plays. Advertising will also be primarily verbal and succinct, conveying in as short a time as possible. And most of it, what applies to radio, holds true for television. The actual verbal content of a television news report might be significantly less than it is for radio. For the television, there is the presence of visuals, which means that a lot of description will not be required. The television also offers other opportunities for creative writing. For example, serials, documentaries, these are very prominent on television. And the writing for these will be in the form of scripts or screenplays. Now, advertising on television is also script-based. Next, we take a look at the new media. This is the newest medium of all, the internet or the World Wide Web. It does not have any fixed form of writing. It is open to all forms of writing, including fiction, poetry, drama, creative nonfiction, news, interviews, and advertising. Everything comes within the gamut of the new media. All of this can exist not only in the written form, but also in the audio or the audio-visual format. Now, writing for the web requires the same skills as writing for the print media, but also requires the additional skill of attracting potential readers to the page. Again, brevity is important. Not many readers will be willing to scroll down the long page to read. Next, under creative writing, take a look at the advertising. Now, advertising really does not constitute a separate medium. It is present in all media, but the factors which control are different from other modes of communication. Advertising is commercially oriented. It spreads information about products and services. And the motive of advertising is to make the public aware of the existence of a particular product or service and persuade them to use it. At a very basic level, the advertising tries to create a need in the consumer for the product which is being advertised. Since advertising is present in all the three types of media, the style of these writing will definitely vary widely. The advertising campaign for a product will include all media. And the kinds of advertising for each of the media will focus on the different elements while keeping something common, let's say the slogan. Now, there are various kinds of advertising. Some of them, I'll just quickly run through it, these range from advertising products to those which serve public and social interests. For example, standard advertising. These are what we see every day in the various media. They try to promote a particular product or service with the intention of persuading the target audience to purchase them. Then we have the public service and social responsibility advertising. Now, this answers a particular public need. It is generally produced and distributed by government agencies or NGOs, along with private advertising, environmental messages, disease eradication campaigns, announcements made by the police. These are some types. Counter-advertising, this focuses on the alleged fraud and misinterpretation in advertising. It tries to counteract the allegedly false claims to ensure that the consumer is made aware of certain aspects which are hidden. For example, the anti-tobacco campaigns come under this. Advocacy advertising. Now, this is closely related to social responsibility and counter. It's a type of advertising that is intended to communicate a viewpoint about a controversial topic relating to social, political, or economic environment. Issues like drug addiction, alcohol consumption, rising crime rate, etc. Finally, we come to the fundamentals of a good advertisement. What should be the fundamentals? Number one, a good advertisement should grab the attention of the viewer, the reader, the listener. There should be some element in the advertisement, like it could be a slogan, a headline, an illustration of the layout that arouses sufficient interest in the reader. Second, it should promise some benefit. Something in the ad should promise the reader or the listener that they will benefit from what the advertisement asserts. Next, it should be credible. The premise of the ad is it should be believable. Do not make any outrageous claims about the product. Next, the advertisement should be persuasive. It should sell or generate the need for the service you offer. The project, your service is better. It should generate a desire. The ad must create a desire to want to avail of the product or service. It should prompt to action. The ultimate aim is to generate action on the part of the reader or listener to cause the reader to want or buy your product. These are some of the aspects. Now, when we talk about publication, well, there are three main steps to take before submitting your manuscript for publication. First, revising and rewriting. Proofreading is important, and finally, editing. Now, some pointers about the physical aspects before you get your manuscript for publication. Type and print your manuscript on a good grade of A4 size paper. Use a standard font. The margin should be 1.5 inches at the top, the left, and about 1 inch at the bottom without excessive hyphenation. All the material except name and address should be double spaced. Place your name and address on the left about 2 inches from the top and write the label on the right. And the title is normally placed in capital letters about a third of the way down the page. The text begins 2 spaces below this. The pages after the first should be numbered in Arabic numerals along with your last name in the upper right corner. And of course, it goes without saying, check the spelling and the grammar very carefully. Now, how do you get published? Well, establish very clear goals about your work. Have an answer to the question, which means I'm writing in order to ... Dream big. Where would you like to see your work? Establish the unique identity of your work. How is it different from all the other books in the market? Who will read your book and why? What are you offering the world? Start working on a fabulous title. Decide which publishers you will approach. Enlist a famous person in the field to write a foreword or an endorsement. So, to summarize the whole thing, writing is an act of communication, and ultimate test of writing is its readability. While writing, be well informed and passionate about what you're writing and convincing in your point of view. Choose your form carefully and make sure your structure matches with it, as do the words you have chosen to express your ideas and feelings. Choose your distinct style and medium. Make sure that you've mastered all the techniques that will facilitate your expression. Minimize the distance between your reader and yourself. Revise carefully and consciously with a clear aim of learning and improving. Use proofreading techniques judiciously to help you write better. Editing helps you to make choices and to arrange your material in the most effective manner. Pay attention to the content and the appearance of your manuscript when you prepare to submit it. By following all these parts, I'm sure you will be able to master your creative writing effectively. Thank you.